5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, listeners, to Assiduous Dust. I'm your host, Joshua Corwin, and this is Assiduous Dust, episode number 13. Lucky or Freaky Friday 13. It is not Friday. Maybe it will be. This is the past. Is it the future? Is it the present? I don't know. I'm super excited. Today, our guest is Jason Wright. Jason is just an incredible individual, and I might be a little bit biased because he's was the first to publish one of my pieces of this godforsaken world for their 3TV for Oddball, which I hope we did talk about that and all the amazing things that Jason is doing for Oddball and the Oddball Foundation. And as well as column stuff, just amazing work he's doing. So without further ado, let me give you a brief thing about just tiny bit of what Jason's done. He's done so much. So Jason Wright is the founder and editor of Oddball Magazine. He's the host of the Oddball Show, which is a podcast. It's just terrific. And he's the director of the newly established Oddball Foundation. Congratulations. His latest book, Train of Thought, is available at oddballmagazine.com, www.oddballmagazine.com. And he is from Massachusetts. He has a column for Oddball called Jagged Thoughts. It's very jagged and rugged. Makes me want to, I don't even need a razor. I can just shave with that. And it can be found every Tuesday at Oddball Magazine, the same website. Jason, you've done so much, and I know, this is just let's just jump in. Is there anything that you're looking forward to doing that, you haven't done? Like maybe like bungee jumping while doing some poetry, or I don't know, or something like, do you do fly fishing or, poetry
fly fishing?
I don't know. Right. I don't know. Just, what's something that we would never know about you?
Something you would never know about me. Something you would never know about me is that I actually would know. I went on Wheel of Fortune once, but that's really not like something I like to talk about because I did poorly.
I'm sure you did better than I would.
No, I doubt it. I'm sure anyone could do better than I did. But I like to talk about it, in therapy. But anyway, no, I mean, bungee jumping with poetry would be fun. How about motorcycling while eating a bowl of ice cream while juggling? That would be cool too. But I've never actually ridden a motorcycle, and every time I'm driving down the street, I'm like literally a motorcycle just drove past my house, and I'm like, So I've never ridden a motorcycle there, Josh.
Neither have I. Okay.
Well, really, I can totally see you driving a motorcycle.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, I'm glad that you can see that. So, you've done so much with Oddball, and I know that you've your poetry also I know is very grounded in it's very lyrical and grounded in spoken, there's very much a free verse and spoken word feel rather than, you can, I'm sure you can go into form and appreciate that, but as well as just go out of bounds. And I know that, Oddball is also, that's an interesting title. When you think of Oddball Magazine, you think of, Oddball. And I know there's the classic is the, the Magic 8 Ball that you have, or something, you have the 3 on it. And I wonder, is there's some relationship to that, and I don't know, just kind of how you consider yourself. We'll see if this forms a question, and we'll take it. I have no clue what I'm going to say. It's just all wacky, and how, I don't know, you experience the world, and how you can kind of experience the world differently, as I know, as, if you could talk about as a bit of a mental health advocate, and
Sure.
Looking for neurodiversity and different ways of viewing the world and bringing that into poetry and talking about depression, kind of how that influences your poetry as well in terms of an outlook of expression to grow as Jason Wright. Not just as a poet, but also as a human being. Not that
Well,
poets aren't humans, which they are.
Well, that's a really good question, and
Maybe
to think
like
about.
also like your idea about it, and maybe like one or two experiences that particularly come to mind.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's plenty there.
We'll dive in
so-
and we'll see how this
Yeah,
takes.
yeah.
Just
Okay,
pick an aspect, your own understanding of it.
So Oddball Magazine, right, is a 3-ball, okay? And the 3-ball is the logo behind paper and a pen, but behind a white lined paper, like a notebook paper. So that's kind of the design, and it's courier writing, like typewriter design. So it's Oddball Magazine. The 3-ball is odd, and it's a ball, hence Oddball Magazine. Now, the reason why Oddball Magazine came to be was because of a dream I had where I drew a 3-ball on my hand, and a couple other friends drew 3 balls on our hands when we were in 1995. And I woke up the next day and I started Oddball Magazine as a zine, as a poetry magazine.
A dream come true.
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that. So that's kind of where that began. So, you talk about like the jaggedness of the jagged thoughts, right? So
right, exactly. That's your call.
When I was in high school, I would finish. There was 2 things I would write. At the end of a poem, I would write just another jagged thought, and then at the end of every story, I would say, "The end for sure."
Your tagline.
I used to say. Well, yeah, I mean, the end for sure is nothing that, I mean, the end for sure was.
Well, the jagged thought one, that
jagged
very
thought.
specific.
Yeah, see, the jagged thought is something that I came up with. Just another jagged thought was something that I came up with a long time ago, and then now like my publications are just another oddball publication. So, so that's where that jagged thought thing comes from. So thank you for asking, because a lot of people wonder where that comes from.
Right. It's like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the thought was another jagged thought also. It's conception.
Yeah, right.
Very meta, very meta.
Well, the thing is about jagged thoughts, right, is anything random that comes to your mind is
and it's like it doesn't have to be fully formed. It doesn't have to be all like neat and perfect, And there's beauty kind of in chaos, I guess. And our lives have this, when we look back on certain events, we can kind of see the order of things, fit in. But, as you're going through it, you don't know. And we're all kind of, we are jagged thoughts in a way, we are expressions of that.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, everyone's poem is a jagged thought, really. It comes from their mind and comes out on the paper, and that's really it, And it could be just a 1 or 2 lines, and then I write just another jagged thought. You talk about my mental health advocacy, and I feel like I've said this a lot, but growing up, there was no real mental health advocacy in general. So I really so when I was like, I would always dive into poetry as a kid and as I got older. But when I first had my first manic episode around 2021, I started developing really difficult mental health symptoms and used the poetry as kind of almost like therapy, to be honest with you. And to use that, that's kind of how I found that poetry can be a very therapeutic thing, and that it just helped my mental health. So
and it's also introspective and the artistic aspect of it as
absolutely.
Well.
So flash forward to 2012, 2010 to 2010. I am riding on the train. I'm working at some restaurants in Boston and working at a bar, and then I'm working as a bouncer at a bar, and I'm writing all sorts of poetry and stuff at the bar, and I would jump on the stage during one of the bands, and I would actually freestyle rap, which is kind of crazy. I would freestyle rap to
very groovy.
It was a salsa band. Yeah, it was a salsa band, and they would do the song No Woman, No Cry, and then they would leave a part for me to rap and do like 16 bars over it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was fun. But so then when I was also, so that was on the weekends, but during the day I would be commuting to a job in Quincy from Somerville to Quincy, and that's like about a 20-mile It's about an hour-long
Yeah, it's a good time, time to kill.
So it's an hour-long commute, so I would always write my poems on the train. But the thing is, I would be really anxious a lot, and I had a host of mental health issues. I was having a difficult time, so I was having a lot of
very jagged thoughts.
Very
train of jagged thoughts.
Yeah, so that is how I actually created the second book, Train of Thought, because and my upcoming book, Train of Thought 2, because all those were caught.
That's the sequel, right?
Yeah, it's called Almost Home. So the first part of Train of Thought ends at Central Charles MGH.
It's marked by stops
marked by stops,
location.
and like the last stop is Charles MGH. The first stop of the next book is Kendall, and then it goes to Davis Square, and there's about 60 poems.
Yeah, and, you think about it. I was listening, I guess, because it would be what because it's the future or whatnot. So sometime back, I was listening to an audio to Jack Kerouac's On the Road. I'd never listened or read it, and there's so much surprised. Yeah. There's so much of different stops and things and going around circle, and it's very interesting. And so you can kind of look at that, if we take this idea also that we are jagged thought and we're kind of on the road or we're on the train, and it's a metaphor for like there are these stops, but they're planned stops, but also there's order in it, but there's also chaos. You don't know. Sometimes the time scales don't go, and they don't go accordingly, but they all fall in neatly. And it's like, let's make use of them, and let's make use of our time. And I find that that's interesting that you have grounded in place, and that also at different points along the way, maybe you're observing different things about yourself as well as about people in general, and how that reflects about you and our whole perceptions of society and how it goes into mental health, which I think is really important. Because I think place is integral to introspection. Because we're in it. We're part of this thing. And
that's a really good point that you said that about like using poetry to kind of talk about the people around you or the situations you're dealing with, or mainly on the train. A lot of those poems were kind of talking about the people on the train and imagining stories. There's one poem called Grace on the Train, which is in the middle of my book, and it talks about like kind of an imaginary tale of this woman who's just sitting there, and then I imagine a whole thing about her life, and it's kind of a sad story, and it's called Grace on the Train. But you talk about situations and stuff. Sure, a lot of my poetry is situational. Depression can be a very good thing. It's a very good muse. You can really write a lot with depression, especially. Some of my poems, like back in the day, they were written at a bar, with a beer, and then go outside and smoke a cigarette and go back and finish the poem. But
what brand?
American Spirits were my tops. American Spirits, but so then you would go inside, and you would finish up. You kind of get depressed about what you wrote and how you're feeling and how you're feeling and everything.
Sure.
So now flash forward, I write mainly because I don't have a commute anymore. I don't have that commute.
Yeah. So can you write like if you're doing something with regard to Train of Thought for Train of Thought 2? Is it like all of it has to be done? You have to be on those places in order to do it. You need to go back on the thing.
So the reason why it's called Train of Thought is because the last poem of the last sentence of the poem is the title of the next poem. So it just goes on and on, like a train of thought, right?
Yeah, I've been working on something of that, but something about based on working in a park, that it's the same long continuity. And I think that's great that you have that and you split it up. It's very
yeah. So not all the poems do that, but for the most part they do. And
it's a theme.
So now I write as a form of you said meditation. Now I write kind of as a form of meditation. I also write, not that I don't write all the time now. I write for a Tuesday column. But if
the jagged thoughts, right?
Right. But if something is bothering me, no matter what, I will write something in a week because I have a column due on Tuesday. But I will no, that's true. But I will always write down something I feel like as you graduate into poetry, everyone's writing to immediately get published. And
And there's
back in the
something
day,
that's lost with
there's
that,
something lost about that, right?
Yeah, there's
Because
a
back in the
quality
day,
that's essential,
yeah, because I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks full of poetry that will never be published,
Right. Oh, well, you
and
never know. It might be published. Like there's people
like
who have that, but
posthumous,
it's
and
as
right,
exactly. And
right,
but that can have a message. It's important, it's useful, and it's good to have a
yeah,
platform for that
yeah.
specifically.
I mean,
Don't write for somebody else, write for you.
no. See, the thing is, the reason why it's kind of different for my column
Hmm.
is because I take a poem that I write knowing it's going to be seen by like thousands of people, and I know it's going to be seen,
Yeah.
and that's
So make
okay.
sure a lot of curse words.
No, just it's fine. I mean, you kind of have to just kind of be like, all right, well, it's going out there, and if they like it, they like it, and they don't like it, they don't like it, and you have to develop kind of tough skin,
Exactly.
because people can be like, your poem sucks, and I'll be like, oh, okay, that's fine,
Yeah.
that's your
And
opinion.
everybody has a different opinion.
But one of the
Yeah.
best things about is when you actually make your poetry, I mean, I'm talking like poets who aren't, I mean, I have the column, every Tuesday, but I mean, just a notebook full of poetry is a beautiful thing, and
Mm.
I mean, and here's another thing: if I was in school right now, like that's when I wrote all my poems and drew all my pictures and drew my graffiti and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and drew my sketches, on notebooks, all over the place. It's just
Yeah.
now my notebooks are full of lists of like the foundation and the magazine and how to improve the design of it and how to like bring marketing to like up the SEO of
You
it,
could always do a
all
poem
sorts of stuff.
literally using that. Like you could take things, you could do an erasure with that.
Yes, yeah. And then the funny thing is like you can take anything that's going on in your life
Mhm.
and write a poem about it. Anything. So if I wanted
Right.
to write a poem about search engine optimization, I could write a poem about it, and I could have a fun time with it. And
Yeah.
one of the things I really like is making fun of poets who take themselves too seriously, and
Right.
not making
And
fun of
I
them.
too can do that myself,
Not making fun of
Yeah.
them, but poetry has become such a thing
Mhm.
that people pride themselves on. That no, they really have.
Yeah.
I mean, I
There's
don't.
somebody who says, they say poetry, and it's
Yeah,
kind of to like, put that. It's
it's
Brian Sonia
I
Wallace who
don't
does
love
that. And
when
it's an
people say
important characteristic to kind of realize that.
I don't love when people say poem, but that's just me. Maybe you say poem, and that's okay. But you're it's
What about a poemy? A
poem.
pony? It
I don't know.
switched. A
I don't know.
pony.
A pony. That's a good idea.
It sounds too much like a pony. Maybe you're gonna. Maybe it's something
Yeah.
to ride. Maybe
Yeah.
it's a bit.
Well,
Maybe it's not
hey,
jagged enough. Maybe it's too
maybe
much. I don't
poetry,
know.
you ride it out. You ride out the poetry and see where it goes.
Exactly. So I wonder if it should go back with you know, writing out, I guess, of different so I want to delve into a bit about the oddball let's take the oddball show is something
Oh,
that you've
sure.
been
Yeah.
doing, yeah,
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
and I wonder kind of how that has been you know a different outlet of course of creativity and a certain way to give back as well as to show of another individual of something that kind of deserves praise and kind of like tell me like an experience like leading up to the formation of that and its development as well as a bit about how that is and maybe it
Yeah.
ties
Yeah.
in let's tie it into this theme we talked about riding this train of life and kind of looking at ourselves at different places along the way. Let's see if we can do that maybe. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had an idea. So I had an idea to start the Oddball Show with Chad,
Mhm.
who's my associate editor, Chad Pronto, and we enlisted the help of JP Line Productions, which was Ivan DeJesus and Chris Everson, or basically Scholar and
Mhm.
Prof.
Okay.
Those are our friends there. And Scholar and Prof and Chad and me, we started the Oddball Show using Google Hangouts at first. And we started using Google Hangouts and we really dug it. We had a lot of fun. And then we would go into the whole kind of, you could interview people from anywhere at any
Yeah.
time.
And
And
everybody
then,
uses Zoom now, but and
well,
that's a side
you
note.
can
Yeah.
use Zoom now. The cool thing
Mhm.
about Zoom is that it's very widely easy to integrate to Facebook Live. So you can boom, nail right to Facebook Live.
Yeah.
And the thing is, before before COVID and everything,
Right.
there's like pre-COVID and post-COVID or wherever.
Yeah,
we're
they're gonna look at the history books that way.
yeah,
They're
they
gonna
will.
talk about it.
And
It's like AD
pre-COVID,
and BC, or
right. Well, one of the things is like podcasts. I think I've never been able to get anyone in the same room, really. So, if we did a couple, face to face. But a lot of them we did, hey, I like this guest. Let's figure out how to use like Google Hangouts or Google or whatever. And then I started using Zencaster. Anyway,
Yeah.
So anyway, I started interviewing people in 2012, 2013.
Okay.
That was, there's some really great poets, a lot of friends, a lot of people that we didn't know, kind of fell on them a little bit. Kind of developed. Basically everywhere that I went in Boston, I started making friends with people, and then they'd be in my podcast somewhere around the other. And now, I continued to do it. And then when Zoom happened, all of a sudden you could talk to Josh Corwin in Los Angeles.
COVID parts.
Yes,
Hello.
now you can talk to Josh Corwin in Los Angeles, and I can be. I was just outside, before this, raking leaves with my wife, so like, like in Boston in the fall, you're in the, in the LA times.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that, what time is it over there? Like 3 hours?
Yeah, it's 3 hours distance, but
So
I don't know. It might be a conspiracy. I don't know.
I know. But what I'm getting at is like now I can interview bigger guests. So I just interviewed I interview my people that I know, that I'm friends with, and then people that I just would never reach out to, like Lloyd Kaufman from Toxic Avenger, and he started Trauma Films, and Tuesday I'm interviewing
it'll be
in the past on a Tuesday, right, I'm going to be interviewing Vermin Supreme, and that's going to be in front of a live Zoom audience, and we're going to figure that out. And of course, Josh, you're invited.
Yeah, and they'll be recorded or something, so people can go back and they can watch these, and they can find this under Oddball Magazine, under the Oddball Show, right?
Yeah, and you can also join Friends of Oddball Magazine too and find stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Oddball Show is actually available on all the podcasting platforms.
Yeah, the whole spiel, the whole
spiel. It's available on iTunes and Stitcher.
You name it.
All those places. You can find it there. So the cool thing about the foundation and the magazine and the podcast and stuff.
Which congratulations, by the way, of that.
Thanks.
Because it's difficult to make something for an official nonprofit organization. It's a lot. Plus with grants and everything, it's just so hard. And I don't know. I'm just gonna jump in here. I do some stuff for the Miracle Project that I've been in, and with autism, and I think that it's
Spectrum, right?
Yeah. Well, no, that's actually different. Spectrum Publishing is a different organization.
Publishing.
Yeah, but the Miracle Project that's based in Beverly Hills, California, and they've done some stuff related to been profiled for HBO and other stuff for docuseries. But what's I realized is that the way, I don't know, I think there's something messed up with the way that nonprofits with grants and stuff, because a lot of places they're competing with each other instead of kind of this more synergized working together thing. That it's more it's very so highly competitive, and I think there should be some reform in there in so many different ways. And I don't know.
Pretty highly competitive with each other. Artists are highly competitive.
Right.
But honestly, I mean, we're a little baby foundation. We're just starting.
But cooperation, I think, is really essential, and it's also what the world needs in these times, especially in this pandemic era.
Yeah, I mean, hey, maybe by in the future it will just be just not even there anymore.
Who knows?
You never know.
Who knows?
But
fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But what's cool is it started with me writing poetry, and then eventually me writing zines, and then me doing Oddball Magazine online, and then kind of doing Oddball Publishing in the podcast. Now doing it all, and now putting it all under the foundation. So now I have a reason to kind of take all those efforts and give them back to the community, you know, and that's a cool idea, and that's a cool concept. And you know, as soon as we're able to and be able to host events out in the community and drives
and
stuff
certain
like that,
initiatives or giveaways, or is there any
Yeah.
particular things that that is to be expected, perhaps for
Yes,
you know,
events,
later this year
workshops,
for
drives.
December or something, or in
Oh.
2021, or there's certain things, you know, I don't know, just certain things that kind of that have been brainstorming, or things that are prepping.
In 2021, we've decided that we were going to start possibly the Oddball Review, which would go into the Oddball Foundation, which could go back to the community. We're going to strengthen Oddball Magazine as it is. We're going to we'd like to give back. I've thought of ideas about how to give back to the school that I went to, their arts program, and I've also thought of, you know, environmental ideas, and also kind of, I was thinking of drives, like to bring, you know, like a book
or
drive.
food drives, book drive,
Yeah,
food drive.
well, I was actually thinking like a book drive, or like a game drive to kind of help out some of the clubhouses and the clubhouses and hospitals and stuff, to make, because I, you know, in a state hospital,
let's think about and let's
books.
also think about that. Let's say places start opening up sometime after COVID or something. Let's just think about this. Like, I don't know when, but all these things, and you have different shelters or places, and all of a sudden they need more resources and things. You know, you know, can we kind of prepare and do something to kind of give it back? And that's something that you know, I think is important to, you know, think about. Maybe it's, you know, some ways away, but it is important nonetheless to think about.
No, it's important to take whatever. So you take the foundation, you develop funds, you distribute the funds to the community, you hold events that are fun, like
and then you
events,
go to Vegas.
5Ks.
No.
Yes, right. And then
sorry.
You know, I mean, I love. There's so many things I'm passionate about, and one thing is, you know, is definitely, besides mental health and cleaning and art, is environmental stuff too. So you have those three kind of things, and plus helping out with social justice issues and stuff like that, and just kind of being a force for good in the community when so much crap is going on. I thought that was a good idea to kind of combine our efforts, you know. So we're
to be an advocate, so to speak. You know, giving your you're wearing I'm
wearing a shirt that says
advocate. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to be an advocate. What do they say? If you don't stand for anything, you can fall for anything.
Right. Absolutely. So I wonder, do you have? I wonder if you would share a piece about you know, I know you mentioned a piece earlier, but I wondered if you have a piece about you know, maybe something regarding advocacy.
Oh,
Do you
my
have
God,
anything about particularly? I know you have so much, but maybe something particularly that fits into the topic of what we're having. Oh, I got to say it in a specific way. Would you advocate jealousize us with your and throw a ball into the 3-tier realm of existence?
No, but I'll read
and
you a
advocate
poem.
us away, aka read a poem. Read a poem. You know, people eventually, I want to say such outrageous things that eventually people will be like, okay, I offer you say this instead to read a poem, read a poem, and that's kind of what I'm going for. So maybe one day people will say something.
I kind of liked it a lot. I liked exactly what you're talking about. Okay, so the poem that I'm thinking of is I protested at the Shattuck Hospital, and I wrote this very nice article after interviewing two people for this great organization called Mass Act, and you know, I interviewed them, and the podcast will be available. They're two fantastic advocates, two friends of mine, and wonderful people. One writes for Mad in America, and her name is Sarah Davidow, and then you know, Thomas Brown is a friend, and he's been on the podcast before, and I interviewed them, and then I joined them in a protest at the Shattuck Hospital. So here's that poem that you spoke that you wanted me to read. I just found it, and it's called Jagged Thought 322, Protesting Shattuck Hospital. Okay. So I'm just kind of reading it, so we'll see where we're at here. This was written May 19th, 2020, and you can find it on Oddball Magazine. You ready, Josh?
I'm ready.
Here we go. They say if you don't, and here's that quote they say if you don't stand for something, you will fall for everything. I believe that to be true. We are a people affected by trauma, patronized for who we are and what we've been through. I'm not a medicinal victim, and I'm not what you label me. I'm not dangerous. I'm not insane. I'm not off my meds. I'm not crazy. I am me. I've always been me. In society, sorry, but you made me. You made me afraid from being bullied by Ben and all those kids who nicknamed me. You made me paranoid because of an untrusting government and from the fact that we've been constantly lied to. The reality is that the only person you can trust is you. Believe me, I try to. But I learned that there's a community like me, not all the same, not all the same story. Same labels, though, same poverty, same marginalization from society. Today I protest because I've been there and it's the right thing to do. You don't have to, but some of us do. A good hospital can save you, but a bad one can destroy you. And being in too long is simply not good for you. So hold on, people, whatever hospital, wherever they may have thrown you. You'll get through. You're stronger than you think, and we haven't forgotten about you. That's it.
Woo!
And
Oh, yeah.
and then I went and I protested at that hospital.
So what, could you read like those beginning lines again?
Sure.
That first part again that you had mentioned?
Sure. I don't even think this is, I mean, there's other poems that speak far more about being an advocate than this one, but there's one I wrote called We the Green Ribbons, which maybe I could read that one, but do you want me to try and find that one?
Let's go into We the Green Ribbons.
Let's go We in the Green Ribbons. Let's find that one because
yeah.
I don't even think.
So while you're finding that, I wonder if I find you kind of mentioned and we kind of talked. You said about the poetry has become more of a meditation and a practice in a way, and how has that I don't know because I'm big into how has that like influenced your your perception on the world and kind of like and in turn like what you can write about and like in terms of metaphor, which I think is big. I was talking to earlier on for the show with Rihanna Munoz. Who's a great an awesome poet, and we were kind of talking about metaphor, and I think that's something interesting to look about that and language and translation, as well as how that kind of affects can metaphor be used in a way that has a relation to kind of our social impact and
sure
or not impact to like advocacy and change and the causes we support.
Sure. I have to say I was looking at trying to find that Green Ribbons poem, so I only caught half of what you were saying. So you were talking about the metaphor
and how how
as
metaphor
green ribbons, the metaphor of green ribbons. Is that what you're saying?
No, just about how metaphors. We could do the green ribbon thing in a tiny bit, but we'll circle back. But how metaphors can kind of be, in a way, you're riding this train, and certain things. And as someone who, I'm a big fan of kind of looking at and exploring neurodiversity. Also, an autistic addict in recovery. In poetry and different ways of kind of looking at things, different uses of language, whole different things, and kind of just going out of the ordinary and also bringing it back in and kind of getting this flavor. I think that, in using the way you use language and metaphor, in fact, it affects also your perception of the world. And in turn kind of affects then, what causes you can kind of support and kind of like the way of, what you're open to of your world. And I don't know if in writing your books and as you've grown with the Oddball, with what you do for Oddball Magazine and for the newly formed Oddball Foundation, how that's kind of been influenced. Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting idea, metaphor and poetry, and I think the the idea about, using, metaphorical symbols for things and all that kind of stuff. And, I was thinking, like, I don't necessarily know if I use metaphors as much as I use puns, pop culture, rhythm, and those kind of things. But when I do use metaphors, I think I use them sort of for a way to describe, I don't know. I don't know how to quite explain exactly what I'm trying to say, but I use it kind of to, I use them to enhance the story, but I don't use them to completely just like, oh, it's about a lion. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, but,
But like, I think I think that's fine. I think metaphors are sometimes kind of hard to understand and explain, but it's not that, like, in this one that
there's an idea behind it, a general concept, and it can be used as kind of like a force for change, as well as.
Of course. Now, I don't know how you would consider the oddball a metaphor for the force of change.
Or this kind of train idea of going through and riding this train.
The train as a metaphor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe we could talk about it, bring it into the oddball, but I don't know.
Like maybe the idea. So the idea of I love the train of life idea. That's a great thing. And how there are certain stops and there's all sorts of things like that. And people get on, people get off, people go in your life, people get out. And
sometimes you go to the DMV and you're away.
and sometimes you get like delayed. Exactly. And that's you're all of a sudden, like, you're late for work. That's just life. Things get thrown in your way. All of a sudden, no one expected this pandemic to kind of happen. No one expected any of this kind of stuff to happen, and it kind of just did. And we're in all this stuff.
What are we going to do? How are we going to adjust? What are we going to do? How are we going to go about it?
And one of the things I think is important is adapting in life and adaptability. And that's one thing I always talk about in my own mental health. I think it's important to be able to adapt to any kind of situation that you're in. I think adaptability and flexibility are two really great things.
Yeah, and having people understand that, and also through understanding to be able to adapt as well, to make sure that certain things aren't stigmatized, or let's get rid of these stereotypes. Let's do something, Of
course, and that's the best way we bring it back to the mental health aspect of writing. If you can adapt to the changes that are happening in your life through creative means, writing, art, poetry, music,
you name it,
whatever you do, and also if you however you can get through this, we'll go back to that train idea, this train of life, and get to the next stop to keep on going, because things do change.
Yeah, enjoy the choo-choo.
Every stop takes you somewhere else, right? So, hopefully when we hear this, we'll be in a different spot, and when we hear that, we'll be in a different spot, and we'll be in a different spot from there. So I really feel like it's interesting to think that we're going forward no matter what. We are never standing still,
and it might not seem like a immediately straight line. I find for me, like, because you kind of think, even if you look at, I look at my trajectory of, like, kind of, you go to college and then, I got sober, I took some time off, I did this.
Absolutely.
Oh, now I don't realize I can't maybe do a math PhD or stuff. Okay. Have an out of body experience, do some, write some, this thesis utilizing that, professor talks to you and it's like submit a poem, and you have these weird things, and I wonder if, if we kind of look at that as well as the country for America, and maybe there's certain things, and maybe I don't know, maybe this is one of the stops, and maybe we can get to the next best thing. Maybe we can get there.
That I know, like, you talk about the stops that you've made in life. I think your passion for poetry is amazing, Josh. Yeah, no, I feel like it's incredible. And the high energy that you bring to it is awesome, and
that means so much.
No, it really does. I mean, you are an advocate just as much as I am for not only, like, mental health and stuff, and neurodiversity. Well, that's the word that you're using.
Yeah.
I'm also using mental health and writing in the same kind of vein, but I do hope that things get better as we progress in society, and I hope And one of the things that I try and do as with Oddball is kind of bring that message forward. So a lot of our focus is almost reporting. It's not like reporting, but it's poetry that's relevant to society right now.
Right.
There's protest poems, and there's poems about social
answering
justice.
the call.
Answering the call, exactly. And then we have protest poetry and people putting their minds out about all sorts of stuff, and kind of making sense of the COVID-19 and the police brutality and these wildfires and Black Lives Matter and all these
and readers
things
can
that
then
are happening.
make sense of this and try to find the way that they can adapt, as well as that they can improve as going through those stops of on this train that we find ourselves in, through the written word and then through reading it.
Yeah, one of the cool things I like about the new organization of Oddball Magazine that I'm working on right now, and is that I have something that says, so this is my plan, Josh, and I haven't got there yet. But if you were to look at the website right now, it looks completely different than it will look like when you see this. So currently, and I'll give you a little bit of a kind of a where we're at right now, is that
Let's do it.
Well, we have. When this is recorded, by the time this is recorded, we're going to have solid categories. So right now we have a couple categories, and it doesn't really, I mean, it makes sense, but it's not as much as I want it to be. But we're going to have, 2020 so far, anything related to that, and that's what the tagline is, 2020 so far. What we love, and, and then what we do. And there's another one, and the other things we do, and more stuff we do, and those are the taglines that I was thinking of. And
it reminds me so much of what is it, of Happy Trails of Quicksilver Messenger Service. For some reason, I have no clue why.
I don't know. But like, the thing
it's probably because like, who do you love? How do you love? What do you love? That's probably why.
Right.
Anyhow,
well, so the thing is,
anyway, you continue. Sorry about that.
So, well, I was actually like using the search on the website, and I realized that our poets write about a lot of things, and I found a lot of things. So lately, people are writing about COVID-19, about Trump, and about Black Lives Matter, and about that movement. So that's one. So that's one section right there. That's 2020 so far. And then the second one people are writing about is mental health, or that I read about mental health. So we have one that says mental health. We have one, I don't know what the other ones are, advocacy, because we have tons of protest poetry.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have 3TV is another thing that which is basically spoken word on recorded.
Yeah. And I was honored to be. To be part of that.
Yes. Yeah, you're one of our latest 3TVs. And then also, and then we have what we do, which is poetry, photography, and art. And then there's gonna be another section.
And you also use
Boston
for music as well, right?
Boston book review, what we like, book review, books, music, and comedy. So that's kind of like the sections that I was thinking, and I'm kind of just spitballing, but that was something that I was working on. So, I like to say that Oddball Magazine is a conglomeration of all those things that people like, that they're passionate about. It's all in the magazine. You can find stuff on everything in this thing. It's
that's
great.
What's so unique about it, and in the willingness to create and to add for content as well as the form is like, let's not just do what's simple or certain. Let's expand. Let's kind of make a difference. Let's kind of make a difference and see what's going. And that's adaptability, and that's what's important as we kind of ride along.
Bingo, as we ride along, and then also there's there'll be availability to donate to the Oddball Foundation, to submit your poems, and also sign up for our newsletter as well. So it's all going to be right there on the website. So right now, currently, by the time you see, if you are a listener of Josh's, come to oddballmagazine.com, check us out.
Yeah, Assiduous Dust approves,
Yes.
Of course. Oddball's doing great things.
Yeah, and also Incentovise is your column now at
Incentovise. I guess it's tomato. It doesn't matter.
It is. It's like I don't know, ketchup, catsup. I don't know. It's like the same kind of thing, right?
Caramel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But I
yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
I know.
So
So I also wonder if do you have a piece that you could share that kind of goes about like words and kind of the way you use language and kind of like with that's heavy duty on kind of the alliteration
yes.
and dissonance
Yes.
that I know that you do in such an interesting extravaganza way.
All
Uh,
right. I'm gonna read
yeah,
one.
would you
Let's see if I can find something.
fireball us with them?
Yeah. Let me see if I can
Yeah.
find something. So I was gonna. The latest one I read is like the latest one. The latest one I just wrote is called COVID 1980, and although it's not lyrical, it's just like pop culture filled, which is the other thing I like to write about when I do poetry. Um, but yeah, let me grab this one poem that I was thinking. And lately, I was just looking at another poem. You talk about stuff that happens in your life, and all of a sudden that becomes part of your the poetry that you are, I just was looking at a poem called Lamenting Tuesday about someone who just passed away, and that just happened recently. So, and then Sail is a poem right before that, which is a metaphor, about a boat. And I should probably read. Let me read you Sail.
Yeah,
Can I read you Sail? All right.
let's read that one. Let's
All
read
right.
it.
Let's read Sail.
Would you sail us away?
I want to sail you away with Sail.
Yeah,
Okay.
come sail
So,
us away. Come
okay.
sail away. Come sail away.
Okay. All right. All right. As I come down from this mania, I wake up. I see the things I have done and the stuff dug up. I see the time has come back down and slowed to an approximate second. Time is not a construct, or maybe it is. It was something I said. To me, it made sense. All five senses did. But time is 1 second, and 60 seconds is a minute. And maybe in mania, a second is infinite, but maybe that's when you're waking in it. Like a wave, it grows until you're rolling with it. The wave hits, things go to shit, and the hospital comes into the distance. The view becomes less timid, and all of a sudden, it's your sudden instinct to get relief from it. And you run around like monkey business, around the halls to be a nurse or med assistant, to witness the shit that I did, the embarrassment at the thought of it, how the slightest sets you off in a minute and you are done being a victim. This is your jungle gym, a prison without society's restrictions. I look back at the last time and I still am not right. I am not right. My wife's not right. Nope, left a long wake behind when the tidal wave struck. Manic mind went to what the fuck? At long last, the time is dialed back. The sail's been strung. The sun is up. The wind's died down. The course compass set. And this ship sails back in to the harbor to next day set sail again.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And it's just the way you read also is just really fascinating. And there's something going on. It's almost, and it's that very lyrical, I guess not lyrical as much as
I'm the
rhythm
ship,
rap.
Josh.
You are the ship. You're setting sail. You're the freaking ship.
There's the metaphor, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah. At Beyond Baroque over here in Venice, California, they have a thing. They have T-shirts that say "May the force be may metaphors be with you" is something that they have. That's hilarious.
I'm a big fan of puns. You'll see a lot of puns and stuff on Oddball.
Yeah.
All the names are.
Yeah, I'm a punny
pundit.
pundit. Yeah.
As they say, Josh, 7 days without a pun makes 1 week.
But and it's important to be able to find humor, and I find that can you talk about certain deep stuff in poetry as well, and to make light of it, and how to do that, and that's something that's challenging, especially if it's something that's particularly an event or situation related to you or something. How's that stand, and there's this kind of it's something challenging.
The funny thing is, and it's not funny, is that when George Floyd was murdered, and there was the protests in Minnesota, and there was there was peaceful protests, but there was also fires and everything, and shit really hit the fan, and all of a sudden it was just like there was some real dissidence in the air that was just unreal that we had to face, and the only way that I could think of doing it was artistically. So when all the shit that happened from COVID-19 to Trump and all this stuff, we write about it in Oddball, and people send us stuff because it gets off there. It gets it out there. You know what I mean? It's a way to do it. It's a way to get through the difficulties of the world, which is just, you turn on, there's poems about social media and stuff like that.
Right, or you turn on the news,
Exactly, the news. Like, there's poems on Oddball about that writers have written. I don't know. It's
and it gives you hope.
I feel like that's how people make sense of it. I feel like that's how writers make sense of this.
Absolutely,
this kind of stuff.
Right,
because,
writers write,
or artists, or photographers. Photographers can take a snapshot of something, and then a writer can write along to it.
Yeah.
Or
if
like,
you were a writer and told you could never write again,
oh my God,
that'd be a pretty sad world.
Well, there's two things that I probably couldn't ever deal with. Is one, I'm just someone saying, "Hey, you can never sleep again." Like, that'd be difficult. I would just go like super, mental. Sleep is so important to my mental health. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is, if I was never able to write again, that would be, no other way would I be able to cope with what goes on in my life. And then the thing is, if all of a sudden I could no longer play music, I couldn't, I couldn't play guitar. That would just be like awful for me. By the way, you play a mean drum. I've noticed. Don't be shy.
I hadn't played for drum. Like a year or so, or whatever.
We're gonna start a Zoom band, Josh. It's gonna be great.
I've been trying to do that with some people. That's something I feel like. I don't know if you know of Ellyn Maybe, who's I hope to have on the show for a later point, is great, and she in fact I've been doing collaboration of some work and putting out working on collaborative collections and other stuff with her, something that's part of Mystic Boxing Commission out of Daniel Yaryan's imprint. It has a band that she does stuff with, and she's had the Ellyn Maybe band, and then doing this thing called Ellyn and Robbie. And what they do, she kind of like this full on of instruments, and then she does the poetry and the stuff to it in this very interesting way, and it's something really cool because why not add that dimension? And that's something. Maybe there'll be the Wright Corwin.
Right, yeah. like Dizzy Gillespie.
Maybe the Wright Corwin. You could add that, and you could have it. Maybe Wright Corwin. Maybe Wright Corwin.
You got something, man. You got something there. If you ever want to hear a really great album, the Burt Parker John Coltrane album is incredible.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
really
listeners, great. Jazz, all kinds of things. Also, it's just so recommended. It's important poetry to put that
incredibly. I feel like poetry and jazz go hand in hand.
Especially if you're editing. I asked Jonathan Kevin Rice. My aunt, kind of introduced me to him, who's out in out near what is it in she's in Scarlet in Charlotte and in North Carolina, and anywho he like recommended certain stuff, and he's like, here's your selection of music. It's like, you gotta paint and put these stuff, because you gotta all have it together, because get that whole thing going. Can we be the most creative, the most can we be creative for change?
All right, I gotta read you my jazz poem.
Okay.
I have a jazz poem somewhere. I've written a lot of poems about jazz.
Let's do it.
There was one time I wrote this whole thing about Art, the City, and the Elevator Dream, which I feel is a cool idea, but it's 4 parts, and I don't think you have time for it. So, jazz is incredibly important for me. When there's a couple things. So if I'm completely blocked, all right, depends. If there's 3 things that I want.
Okay.
First of all, Philip Glass is a great composer for listening to music.
The Corwin approves.
You like Philip Glass? Okay. His music is really great for writing too. Pete Rock is, if you want to write some great instrumentals, you listen to Pete. I mean, you want to write some rhythmic poetry, write to Pete Rock.
Listeners, you've heard it. Check out Philip Glass, Pete Rock, and the third.
And then the third is basically any jazz that you can listen to. You know, I'm partial to Oscar Peterson and Thelonious Monk, but
Thelonious Monk is really grooviness on a stick. I feel very much so.
If you were to look at some of the so if you were to just kind of like do a wide search on Oddball, because we have a really great search, and be like jazz, like there'd be like tons of poems that come up that are related to jazz music, and that's pretty cool. So that's why one of the columns that we spoke of earlier, you know, was about music, you know, and we have a lot of, you know, I mean, especially the stuff that I write is a lot about, like this one, Planet Rock, I think is about Pete Rock and jazz, actually. So I could read that one. So I'm looking at one. Oh wait, here we go. Jagged Thought, Dizzy. It's about Dizzy Gillespie.
Okay.
I think.
Would you make us dizzy and spin us away, twirl us away with the Jagged Thought?
Yeah. Let's do this. Let's
do it.
Jagged Thought 150. So I'm on 325.
And counting.
So that was, oh my God, November 15th, 2016. What just happened? Trump just became elected. So, all right. So that's, oh my God. Yes, the world seems to be imploding. The world seems to be up, down, left, right, A, B, select starting itself. Contra, all a big war game. Tiny little hands, fingering the red capsule, waiting to take a big swill, poisonous self-destruction. But then there is and always will be jazz, the music that makes my pen write in uninhibited soundscapes. It makes my mind travel, each note playing off each other's swimming pool, stop and dive right back in, the welcoming sound of blue notes, waving flags of Dizzy Gillespie, waving flags of freedom, flowing like ocean animals, driving like mystics, jamming inside electronic fusion of syncopation, drums, elation and election of electrons, sounds of songs, songs of sound, simple, complex, inordinate verticals, vertebrae and fractals, the symbols, the mathematic riddles, the freedom of Dave Brubeck. Take 5, I got 5 on it. I got $5 in my pocket. Buy my girl some flowers. Listen to the digital relapse. Listen to the heartbeat, the oceans of muses, ocean floor rumbling with each note. There is no wrong or right in this world. In the world, the one I stand on, the microphone is standing in place, waiting to drink my symphony, my establishment, my electoral vote. My words flow through each chords like vocals on keyboards, syncopated discord, fast, slow, low, and in control. The soul of syncopation, a masterful masturbation of mastery, minds flowing in immeasurable time. This is jazz to me. The world out there, it ain't jazz. And the forgotten language I speak is music with drum beats. Each meter frees me. This is jazz. This is a culmination of nations facing hate, swaying in vibrations. This is jazz, rolling drum beats, flowing stampede of cattle, cautious half notes bending in someone else's cannonball forge. This is a dizzy dream, a bird flying high, soaring through each singer's sad sounds. Each drum pokes his head in like children who want to stay up to watch the moon. Super moon, the world is gone too soon, and with it a wall of sound. Not a wall to keep out, but to let in. This is jazz. This is music. This is far from oppression. This is freedom. This is a battle being fought together. This is love. This is jazz. The world is not jazz. The world should begin to be. I am begging for it. Let each politician, politicking, listen to each drum snap, each foot stamp. My fingers on the keys like Oscar Peterson. My poetry is jazz, fueled by fracking mother, fracking jazz. The world is pizza pie, and I'm a slice of life. This is jazz. There's no wrong answer. There's no squares in jazz. Just simple sparks of synapses firing, breathing fire like a dragging each note as I breathe and spit. This is jazz. This world is not jazz. It needs to begin to be.
Ooh. Snap, 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 clap, clap, clap. Groovy. There's
yeah, man.
There's something with that that's really interesting, is because there's also the spiritual nature, and you know, there's this thing, the world is, and then it isn't, and it kind of goes back. It's this whole rhythmic dance. It's jazz. The world is jazz. Existence is jazz.
Exactly.
And there's kind of that whole thing. And even if you go back in many different things of in deep in Islam, and even in very Kabbalistic in Judaism, if you look and you're like, okay, and I'm sure in other religions as well, you look and it's like, you take out, and there's this whole thing that like, that in fact, it's that, the kind of the universe it's willed into being, and it's kind of like every single moment it exists, and it's not. And so there's this constant shift in between the breath and everything. So there's this rhythm, this jazz riffic-tastic thing. And you kind of look at that in a human experience. So like the world is jazz, isn't jazz. It's just, this is jazz.
Well,
it isn't.
What
It's
really
there you
is
go.
jazz? I mean, jazz is I mean, it is measured, like you can compose jazz, but it's
But
kind
can
of
jazz
like,
compose you?
yes, but can you be composed with jazz? But no, you can compose jazz. You can like write down, but it's mostly improvisational,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's one of the most beautiful things about it. But if you wanted to, you could take down each note for note, because it's all in key, but it's all discordant. It's all syncopatic. It's all very interesting. Jazz is seriously, the idea of it, just listening to it, there's nothing more opening to a writer than jazz music. How else can, or I mean, maybe some frame of mind, maybe some classical music like Mussorgsky or something. But like, honestly, if you listen to jazz music, your mind just completely opens up, and 10 to 20 minutes in, you have a huge, something down there. Sometimes even
There's a
minute or
giant
two in.
smile. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let me sip a glass of water, some jazzerific water.
Jazzerific. Can I ask you a question? The word groovy, that's like your lines. Where does that come from? Why do you love that word so much?
Oh wow. Now you're interviewing me.
Bringing it back?
Yeah, it was a New Year's resolution. I guess 2016 or 2017, I believe.
Yeah.
Was, do I want to use the the spiced language up? And I had a friend who would watch me when I was like, getting drunk and getting fucked up and stuff, and he was sober and whatnot. He used the word groovy a lot, and he was kind of like a dirty hippie. We called him a dirty hippie. I saw this stuff, and he would joke about like starting a commune and whatnot. And he used groovy a lot, and I liked that eventually. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's groovy. It's an attitude. It's like, this psychedelic kind of attitude of going about life in a way, of this spontaneity. And then I'm like, I want to spice up my language. So my New Year's resolution, instead of, I'll just use different language. So I'll use like keeping it cosmic or bitchin' or
keeping it cosmic. I dig that one.
Or have a groovy day or something, or groovy or groovily. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
And groovy kind of stuck. It fit. So I honored that.
Okay. So I'm gonna start like all my professional letters and then keep it cosmic.
Absolutely. Well, would you? So Jason, would you? Right on, Mr. Wright.
Yes, sir.
So would you get wrong with me and
okay, here we
go. And get jazzerific, groove-tastic with groovergy, synergy, and synapse, our Zion biome sphere, like banging a gong with advocacy of the harmonic universe, singing harmonicas going beep boop beep, also known as the OTSCP, on the spot collaborative poetry segment
that stands for?
of Assiduous Dust. And though it's again, so I asked you to put out a few books, so they're open face and listeners. So OTSCP, the on the spot collaborative poem, which is signature of Assiduous Dust. What we do is that Jason and I, we both have a few books laid out and open, so that I have, I can see both pages for each. Jason, you have that out, and so wherever my eyes kind of gaze, like I'll see a word and then I'll see another word, and I'll take advantage of my ADHD. This is where it comes in super handy.
Yeah, me too.
And I'll do that, and I'll say this thing and kind of compose a line, almost like like a a variant of a cut up, of a Burroughs cut up, but of individual words, and do that. And then we'll do it exquisite court style, you, me, you, go back and forth. We'll end up in a masterpiece or a masterpiece. Would you like to grab my jazzy hand, pull it through the void, and let's get on with it?
You got it, buddy. Let's do it.
Okay, so would you let us know what books you have out, books and titles?
Okay.
Or books and authors.
Okay, first book is Jason Wright, Train of Thought, Poems from the Red Line.
Okay.
Okay. Second book is Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. Okay. Third book is Catch-22, Joseph Heller. And then the fourth book, I guess, is Jason Wright, Letter to the World.
Woo!
I also have Franz Kafka here and Charles Bukowski.
Nice. Okay, so I have this thing that's called. It's actually quite interesting. This was a thing is based being together in place, indigenous coexistence in a more than human world. That's by Soren C. Larson and J.T. Johnson. I have that out to. I like to say for me the pages 136 and 137. I have this is a thing, Foothill Poetry Journal. So it's volume 9. Based out in Claremont, California and an upland area. And what they do is they have MFA students or certain creative writing students for grad programs. And they have, at the time, they can then submit to that only while they're in the MFA. So I have out pages 16 and 17. Ellie Jackson, who at the time was getting an MSc in creative writing for the University of Edinburgh. So it's shout out to her with portrait of a girl based on the contents of her pocket. And then next page is Bridget A. Lyons, who at the time was at Northern Arizona University in her MFA in creative writing, and it's sliding into shoots. And then I have out what is it? It's the happy birthday of the happy birthday of death by Gregory Corso. And so I have it out too.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great book. I had lost it and then I found it again. I have it out to pages 54 and 55. Yeah.
Okay. So I have I opened up, I have like 6 books up. Do I close 2 of them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, it's fine. I actually have 2 more, so that's fine. And then I have Allen Ginsberg's improvised poetics, great for your collection, pages 28 to 29. And then I have, why not have some classic thing? I have out the Theory of Moral Sentiments.
Cool.
Yeah, of 94 and 95. So let's would you like to start?
I have Heatwave of Train of Thought Part 2. This is from
so we're combining and using all of it.
Fahrenheit 451. This is a chapter of it's a poem called Cub Stuff by Bukowski. And then we have Pilchard and Wren, which is that's Catch-22.
Okay, awesome. Would you like to start?
So I just pick any words off of
wherever your eyes goes and you construct a line using with laser sharp focus with where your eyes go, and you construct the
whole just
little individual parts of the line. It could be a few words, it could be an individual word, and you piece them together, and then we go back and forth like we're doing a cut up orally almost.
This actually reminds me. Ready? Here we go.
Okay.
This actually reminds me of a commercial I saw on TV.
Polynesian identities, Kerouac comes the word sliding into unhappiness.
On one wall, a woman smiled. Quick war, Pete was called. I'm not worried. Large glass tanks say 10 feet by 4 by 4, and I
can be the object of beard gratitude, a sort of conceive, destroy it, Olson Wolf. College read synchronously my toilet sanitary simple lions.
That reminds me, not from wars, it's always someone else's husband dies. Never apologize. Why books, which makes it the same wall? Yugoslavia to celebrate May Day. Catch me doing that, and you can cut both my back pockets off. Some people say change means growth, while certain permanent acts also prevent decay, like flossing, fucking, fencing, fatting, belching.
The third, heathen sovereignty imperious bird fight becomes disagreeable ever after contents, creative beard, creative rainbow clown, war in man, entered lie, the selfie stick, the stoop, although location naming new Polynesian identities, locations.
Scussett was the stage of my endless summer, the boredom, ice are fussy, and my lawyer tells me that Abraham, where the house stands side by side, covering all the fields for once to feel that touch and then to die. Fellas, said Captain Pitchard, who had thinning dark hair, guitar and a deck of cards, it's always someone else's husband dies, they say.
Observed by writing, selective verse projective, liner notes, a snuff box penknife adventure similar to commemorate black light happy matter. Maori contact is history signing, treaty furrowed intentions.
How she can always make me smile, no dog barking, dirty carpet on a rocket flight into the clouds. The three women fidgeted and looked nervously at the empty mud-colored walls. Large glass tanks, say 10 feet by 4 by 4, and I'll sit and watch them while hardly had the priest read 2 pages before we conveyed by the beggar's words we laughed, but the emperor derives no advantage from our fidelity, and we all are strangers on the same road.
Shores took place, the history, sockets, packet point, sent, poetry, moment, monument, pleasure or pain or resentment, its attention I formerly pursued, feel pain or enemy, clown, a fishy poor America grin, bears wilderness, my store, treaties, unnegotiated reign, exploration, name, one's self-determination, shining, inhabited continents, voyaging, locations around that word fairly early.
I brought my manic bride to the edge of the water, and you are a misfit just like me. I'm not worried. One wall, a woman tomorrow. Time enough, careful, wonderful. The three women trying to know what the religion was. Ace, make an astonishing day, even though you know in this year of 1978 I paid $8,441.32, and to prove to your Zarian that they bore him no animosity, this attitude then is certainly no virtue. On the other hand, however, there's also involved token of homage, but Peking itself. You are a misfit writing about the summer sea and the sunshine on the red line, listening to the Kinks.
For eyes, whalers, traders, missionaries, Murray, Ayatara Roa, Wena Mama Mana, common constitutionalism, her eyes can lie. I kept watch, recalling his rainbow past, increase his esteem, importunities, extorting generous, gracious mind.
On one wall, a woman smiled and drank orange juice. Permanent acts also prevent decay, like flossing, fucking, fencing. I'll sit and watch them for hours while pockets are off. You know I never heard Gertie S. and roll it keeps raining. True, the sacred dragon stands on the little column. The souls of almost all the provinces. He was wrong. There had been no clouds, with a guitar and a deck of cards.
Centered in light is happy war of Eden. No rooms here in foraging Polynesian.
killed jumping off buildings, 5-minute romance, last night in your wall, never apologize, don't apologize to an egg. He was wrong, fellas. And to prove Captain Pilchard's right, guess and didn't do where the house stands. Can there really be a village? True, if from such appearance anyone should draw the conclusion, this attitude then is certainly no virtue.
He probably feels laughter in the box, be it monkeys of draft intentions furrowed, be it exploration, often both from the story and from Europe. Look at serviceable, remarkably fortune accidentally. Look at unreasonable hast. Look at ourselves. We distinguish flattering laughter, flattering man in war, happy light.
I was sick, quick war, white Moselle, raining gun down in water. Our village, however, had already received abundant alms. It will always be the cause of constant memories. You are a misfit, the heat of summer nights. I'm not worried, said Mrs. Phelps. I will chase him away like I do now, which makes it the same wall up and down. Never apologize. Understand the sorrow. Be independent, we always said. If I get killed off, go right ahead and don't cry. That reminds me.
Old friends meet, paradise, delicate strategies can remain. Sites of earlier discover back the anthology, literally that kind of funny terminological set, no feeling improper of object, revenge, pleasure, pain, authority, dispossession, colonization, many different country, colonial, October, identity selves. One's story unfolds, one's story new, one story established, an effort Protestant blue.
Soon I'll be home. Patience. I shouldn't be here. With feverish quickness, large glass tank. Van Gogh was a lobster. He has breathed out his fiery breath. Why, the dialect of this neighboring province differs in all strangers. General Electric Bulb novels are nice and fussy. My lawyer, Gertie S., was, in this year of 1978, Montag said nothing but stood looking at the women's faces, solitaire, with feverish quickness. Looking around this train, I don't see a party. If from such appearance anyone should draw the conclusion, we are all strangers on the same road, and I was sick.
Oh, that's a nice ending. That's a nice ending.
That's a nice ending?
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah.
I like it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Jason. I wonder, so I guess most of your stuff is on, so with Oddball, www.oddballmagazine.com. Any things that you'd like to shout out, links, any of your stuff on different places? I know Amazon is the devil. Some people like to do stuff for there, but what, where can people? Yeah.
I tell you what, I had books of my own of Oddball that before the pandemic happened, and we were out reading out and about. We got about 100 books. So if anyone wants to email me at oddballmagazine@gmail.com, they can email me and I can send them a book with a sticker and a card and a nice little hi, how you doing? Thanks for buying my book, and I will sign it. I think that's the best way to get that book out there instead of giving Amazon any more money.
Yeah, let's put out that anthology that says, Amazon killed the rainforest.
And then if you could always check out the Oddball Show. And I really want to give a shout out to Assiduous Dust. It's a really great podcast. Josh, you're doing great things. And if you can check out Joshua Corwin anywhere, he is seriously a sight to be reckoned with.
Okay.
And I had a great time being on the show. And,
Thank you. It was a pleasure. And I will type up this, and so the other people, you can do what you want with it. I'm putting together, listeners, we're putting together an anthology. Hopefully we'll see. We're looking at potential publishers for the OTSCPs. And hopefully, Jason will have that. So we'll put it on for that. And, he can put that. So I'll type it up. I don't do any insertions and deletions. And I do my best to try to make it the way it looks on the page look like the flow of how it was done when it was constructed. So
cool.
There'll be that.
Yep. Josh, that was a real pleasure, man. I really appreciate that. That was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yes. And if you are available in the check out oddballmagazine.com, check out the Oddball Show, check out Assiduous Dust, and what is it? Keep it cosmic.
Keep it cosmic. Okay. And have a groovy day.
And have a groovy day.
Okay. Right. Awesome.